Hey guys, are you ready for it? Today is June 18, 2025, 11:34 p.m. Central Time. So this is a video request that a little under a dozen people contacted me in different ways to do. Very quickly, if you don't know me, never heard of me, whatever, I am an 8-year USMC veteran of the Iraq-Afghanistan War. I actually was stationed in both places, among other places in the Middle East. I was in intelligence, and my primary focus actually was Iran and in-depthly other things around that they were dealing with. But that's about as far and as clear as I want to go in this video because it's not about me. So here's the deal. U.S. involvement imminent. The very beginning of this video is going, all through this video is going to be partial opinion. The end of the video is going to be opinion. And then the middle of the video is really going to be like factual stuff. You guys probably don't know about what's in Iran to begin with, which is why I wrote it. So I'm going to go down this document because I put everything in it so that I don't forget stuff and I stay on task. I don't see how it's not imminent. Our involvement, I think, is like, I don't see how it doesn't happen in one way or another, and I'll get into that. Imminent could be 24, 48, 72, a week, 2 weeks, who knows? Trump is very hard to predict. I don't know what he's up to. But this has to obviously do with the Israel-Iran war. And is it going to start World War III? Well, let's put it this way. If for some reason it does, World War III is not going to look like World War I or II. It is not going to be fought in the air, sea, or ground. It will be done very differently, and that's what I'm going to go over in the bottom or the end of this video, bottom of the document. I have to address this, though. Suspicious Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, Director of National Intelligence. First of all, I said a long time ago in a different video regarding Tulsi, she is unqualified for that position. She is very sketchy. She had a very close relationship with Assad. She took Middle East trips while she was a House representative without telling leadership or notifying anyone she was even leaving the country. She has very odd views. She is obviously military. She's a veteran. I don't believe she's on reserve at the moment. I don't even think you can be if you're in a cabinet position. But beside the point, yes, she is military. I believe in the sense of a medic. I can't really remember. Beside the point, she is very much an isolationist to begin with. Tulsi in general, period, I like her, but I don't like her in our government. But regardless, Suspicious Tulsi had said back in March, and Trump was asked about it, at a committee of some sort, I didn't see it, that Iran actually does not have a nuclear program. I don't know where the hell she said that and what committee and how that came up. But Trump was asked about it, and he literally basically said, I don't care what she said. Okay. Well, how or why or what's going on with her being the Director of National Intelligence and having access to basically almost anything that she could have prepared for that committee if that actually truly would have come up. And then to have the balls to say that is very suspicious. Because for one thing, the IAEA, May of 2025, went into Iran and actually found that they had a stockpile of uranium of 409 kilograms that was enriched to 60%. And that stockpile, that amount of uranium, is enough material to make 10 nukes. Uranium has to be enriched up to 90%, but the amount of kilograms they have can actually produce that many nuclear bombs. So if you know any, and I know very little about the enrichment process, about how all that happens, protons, neutrons, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know the physics behind this stuff, but I do know that the nuclear reactors that you use for power, only the max, I think, that I read, you only really enrich 5%. So, yes, that's a bit of a key indicator there. But beside the point, there's obvious other indications they have it, and that's these important facilities. And this really has nothing to do with Tulsi anymore. Tulsi's an idiot. I can't stand her. Important facilities. NATA's 202. 2002, this became public. All these dates are specifically when they became public. They have existed prior to them, but how long, we're unaware as a public. Let's put it that way. So this particular facility is above and below ground. Israelis have hit it and have, stated, it's hard to tell with wars, even with the Iraq-Afghanistan war. There's so much information coming from both sides and different reporters and different stations and even different news outlets that are overseas or even allies or enemies, whatever. Who knows what really happens till you actually see video or a photo. But beside the point, Israelis claim that they did do some damage to the above ground portion of this facility. This facility is 150 miles outside of Tehran, and the below portion is 164 feet deep into the ground. This particular facility enriches uranium, and it has a small amount of centrifuges. When I say small amount, originally, from what I read, they had about 70. So plus or minus 70. I'd probably say plus or minus 100 at this point. But it's not a very large operation, if you will. The IAEA actually had a lot of access to this facility during the JCPOA that happened in 2015. So that's probably why they kept it quite small. And then FORDOW, 2009 is when it came a public knowledge. It is above and below ground, mostly below. It's built into a mountain. It's 660 feet deep, or an eighth of a mile. It originally had 3,000 advanced centrifuges back in 2009. The JCPOA in 2015, when it was signed over, they were required to minimize it to 1,000, to the max, 1,044. Okay, so there is, who knows how many advanced centrifuges are in this facility at this point. How you disappear about 2,000 of them, okay, I'm not sure how you dispose of them. But beside the point, at one point they were in compliance because they did allow the IAEA inside this facility at one point. I think only twice. Because during the JCPOA, anyone who says Trump leaving the JCPOA caused all this, you are extremely ignorant to the deal and what happened during that time frame. And luckily, I was actually following all that because I had finished serving, and this is what I ended up doing was politics. The thing is when the IAEA was required to oversee all these facilities and everything that Iran was doing, Iran had a 24-hour notice. They were able to limit the areas and facilities of where the IAEA could go and where they could go within those facilities. That program had absolutely no restrictions on their ballistic missiles program, which obviously is huge because you can have all the nuclear material you want, but you need a mode of transportation, which will be a ballistic missile. There was sunsets in it. There was a 10-year sunset and a 15-year sunset. So it wasn't a done deal forever and ever situation. It was going to have to be renegotiated. And Iran, at the time, once signed, said they had no intention of renegotiating this contract once the sunsets were up. So, and there were also no restrictions regarding, which is also crazy, regarding Iran providing material support, financial support, whatever, to any of its, quote, proxies, they always like to call them proxies, okay, in the area or around the world for that matter. I mean, there was like no cap on anything. It was the dumbest deal ever. It was the dumbest deal ever. When someone is trying to oversee and have oversight over what you're doing and you're given a 24-hour notice and you're able to tell them where they can and can't go, yeah, what a great deal. What a great deal. And this particular facility is locked the fuck down. And like I said, the IAEA was not allowed to go through all of it anyway. So anyway, they had 3,000 advanced centrifuges, supposedly went down to 1,044 because the IAEA did confirm that. Where the other 2,000 went, who knows? Who knows how many are there today? I do not know. However, in 2023, the IAEA did get into that facility for a little while and found that there was an 83.7% enrichment of uranium in that facility. Iran's excuse was that it was basically a hiccup in their equipment because it was such a small amount. There wasn't a huge amount of kilograms of it. That it was such a small amount that there must have been some sort of issue with the machinery. That's how retarded it was. So Iran has had and did literally have the capability in their hands of an 83.7% enrichment of uranium. Very, very small amount, but the IAEA found it in 2023. The fact they found it is very interesting because I would definitely think they would have wanted to hide that little situation, regardless of the amount. Again, 90% is required for a nuclear weapon. And then there's ARC. 2002 is when it became public. It's a heavy water reactor, has to do with plutonium. It's 155 miles from Tehran. The IAEA in 2007 said it was 63% complete. It was being built. In 2013, during the negotiations of the JCPOA, they were required to halt any type of construction on it because obviously you need plutonium in order to create a nuclear weapon. Eventually, obviously, once, and it wasn't just once Trump pulled out of the deal, this agreement with the Chinese was happening right before Trump took office. But as soon as Trump pulled out of the deal, it was more like, because he came in what? 2016, January 2016. And I had heard about this. The agreement with the Chinese, or the negotiations, were happening in 2015 during the presidential election. And then Trump pulled out in late of 2016, and Chinese and Iran did a final deal, signed it in 2017 to continue the construction on ARC, and it's supposed to be completed as of this point in 2026. The IAEA has not been allowed to go near ARC at this point, period. In fact, I heard about a couple hours ago, Israel has sent out a notice for people to book it from that area. Anyway, is this starting World War III? Consequences of the U.S. involvement. Whether we provide... Okay, because apparently we need to give these people, meaning Israelis, these bunker buster bombs in order to destroy for sure the FORDOW, I think I said that wrong, facility, as well as the other one. But the FORDOW obviously is most important because it's basically all underground and it obviously has a massive amount of equipment. Their stockpile is there that's at 60%. Enriched and everything else. That's what's being reported, that Israel needs these bunker buster bombs to do that. For whatever reason, and I have no intelligence on this. This is just pure assessment, if you will. Israel had to have had some sort of plan to do this on their own. If the U.S. decided not to provide or can get kinetically involved, in other words, do it ourselves, to destroy this facility, they had to have a plan B. And I don't know what that plan B would be because since I was intelligence, I was working with the Israelis, obviously many, many countries, but I was only working with Israeli intelligence. I had nothing to do with their assets. So I don't know what they have or what they're capable of. But for this sake, let's just say the news and everybody else is right, saying the U.S. actually does have to provide, meaning giving them the aircraft and the bombs to do the job, or the U.S. decides to literally get involved kinetically, physically, and do it ourselves. Either way, we are basically fucked as the U.S. if we do this at all. Trump seems to be going with the wind on his decisions. And I say it like this. First off, Netanyahu is, in my opinion, and I've said this on X as well, is taking advantage of the fact Trump is in office. He would never have done this under a Democrat, sure as hell not under Biden or Obama. But the point is, any Democrat that would have gotten in the White House, period, he would not be doing this right now. And the fact that Israel is saying that, you know, Iran is weeks away or days away or whatever the fuck they said, months away, who knows? I think they said weeks away from completing a nuclear weapon, I think is a little extreme because of what the IAEA found in May of this year. Their stockpile is only at 60%. Yes, the FORDOW facility did have enriched uranium, a very small portion of kilogram that was over 83%. I think it was 83.7 or something that I had above. So yes, they are quote unquote learning and able and capable of enriching uranium to a higher degree. But I don't, like I said, I don't know the physics behind this type of stuff, so I don't know how long it would take to actually go from 60 to 90. I don't know, but I mean, logically, I would think it would take more than a few days or a few weeks. Because when I was serving and I was dealing with Iran, I was actually watching and dealing a lot with their nuclear program. Was not a 100% part of my, I don't want to say job because that's not the right word. It wasn't 100% what I was focused on. It was more I was focused on their proxies and what Iran was doing, how they were affecting Afghanistan, Iraq, the Taliban, just everybody, including Hezbollah, Houthis, like everybody who exists now and exists then. It was more of I was following the trails of money and weaponry and all kinds of stuff and finding the ties and stuff like that. So, but I was aware of their nuclear program, and we can look at satellites and see what things do and what they, you know, what exists, what doesn't exist, what equipment's moving around and stuff, even underground. In my opinion, I believe there is actually another site that is in Iran. I don't necessarily think that it is at this point, at least when, let's say in theory, I ran across something that could have been. I wouldn't think it would be up and running, but it would be a great place for a stockpile of stuff. Let's put it that way. It was large enough to be for sure, and it could be partially up and running, just a small portion of it. So I do think there is a facility out there that they are not sharing. Guarantee the Israelis are aware of it. The United States obviously would be aware of it, and everybody else. So, but why that particular area hasn't become public yet? Maybe they haven't named it. I don't know. Again, grain of salt. I could be making it all up. I don't know. But beside the point. The point is 60 to 90. I don't know how long it takes. I think Israel is being a little bit forceful in this situation, that they had to jump on this right away. Okay? So I think part of it is because it's the beginning of Trump's term. Trump also gave Iran 60 days to do a deal. On the 61st day is when Israel decided to do what they did. Trump originally disagreed with Netanyahu. When Netanyahu came to Trump and said he was going to do this, he said no, and we are definitely not interested. The 61st day apparently came around, and poof, Trump went with the wind. He flip-flopped and said, go for it. So Netanyahu did. And he started attacking Iran. Iran started attacking Israel, blah, blah, blah. Here we are 5 or 6 days later, whatever it is. Netanyahu also went to Trump and asked about taking out their leadership, the Ayatollah and everybody else. And Trump said no. Now, will he flip-flop on that? Who knows? And why Netanyahu would even ask Trump about that particular situation is questionable. I would say Netanyahu would inform Trump that that is a possibility of what they're going to be doing, not necessarily say, yes, we're going to do it until they're actually going to do it, and basically try and work with this administration on the consequences and the outcomes and the unintended consequences of how this is going to go out. Over 80% of Iranians disagree with this current regime that came in the 70s under Carter. This regime is evil, 100% evil. I've been around a lot of Iranians, and they are wonderful people. They're very educated. They're smart. There's many of them that are U.S. citizens that are here in this country doing very well. Tehran itself and Iran, period, is not a third world country by any means. The government was starving. Now they're a little wealthy. They don't do right things for their people and stuff like that. They don't feed them, take care of them. They assassinate them, hang them, stone them, do all kinds of stuff when you go against the regime. But the Iranian people overall are the ones that need to make the change. So if Netanyahu decides to take out the mullahs and Ayatollah and everybody else in that whole situation, there's still about a 20% population that would have a serious problem with that. But there's a good 80% that wouldn't. So there would basically be a problem internally within the people of Iran, and I do believe that new leadership would come out of it on behalf of the 80%. But that is called regime change. I don't think anyone of any country should be in the business of regime change. We install people. You've seen what happened before. We've installed people in other places and they've gotten overthrown or they were worse or whatever the fuck. We, Netanyahu, nobody should be suggesting if Netanyahu takes out the leadership of who should take place, first of all. And it should be methodical of how Netanyahu would do it, too. Because if he did it all in one swipe, it would be a disaster just like any other country. If someone came here in the United States and took out our entire U.S. government, meaning VP, president, every representative, every senator, fucking DC was just gone, things would go a little haywire here, okay? That's going to be the case in any country. So it has to be done methodically. Otherwise, it'll be a disaster. And like I said, Iranians need to pick their own leadership. It is possible to get rid of these people, but it has to be on behalf of the Iranians. Even if these people live and Netanyahu doesn't touch them, the Iranian people have gone to the streets, thousands and thousands and thousands of them, especially under the Obama administration, protesting this regime and what it was doing at that time. Obama refused to back the Iranians, didn't back Iran, but didn't back the Iranians and had, quote, no comment. Okay? So there are more of them, more of the Iranian people than there are of this regime and the 20%. Something can happen in Iran that is good for those people. I genuinely do not have a problem with 80% of Iranians. I really don't. I can't say that about any Palestinian, period. I'll just put that out there. Every Palestinian that comes out of Gaza is a problem. 20% of Iranians that come out of Iran, basically that live within Tehran, are a problem. Not everybody in the Middle East is a problem. Saudis are not a problem. Egyptians are not a problem, okay? There are specific groups of people that are an issue, and in Iran, the mullahs, Ayatollah, all of them, and the 20% are a problem, and that 80% needs to stand up, regardless of what Netanyahu does. So will Trump flip on that position too and agree, quote unquote, or even allow, who knows how that relationship goes, to take out the Ayatollah and all them? Who knows? But the immediate reacting parties, once we get involved, however it is, whether we provide the equipment or kinetically get involved, that's the thing. The U.S. will be implicated if we get involved at all. At all. If we give the Israelis what they need to do the job, or we do it ourselves, it doesn't matter. We're going to be in a shit situation. And it's almost going to, in certain people's eyes, especially in Iran and China and everybody else, all their allies, if you will, and all of our enemies, we'll look at it as though the U.S. got involved and helped the Israelis take out what was needed. Have we already provided the Israelis with weaponry? I'm sure we have, but not, in my opinion, not for this particular instance, dealing with Iran at this point. Israelis have they're not fucking Ukraine. They have their own weapons. They make their own weapons. They make their own jets. They make everything. The only thing that we've given them since Trump's been in office that I'm aware of anyway are the SAMs, the anti-missile systems to defend themselves, for sure, 100%. We have absolutely done that. But there's no reason for us to have provided any of these missiles to or any type of aircraft, anything at all, to the Israelis at this point regarding Iran. So as far as the world or anyone else is concerned, and here's proof of that. Iran specifically, the president of Iran and the Ayatollah, even on X, have stated that if United States, or America as they call us, which is fine, gets involved in this war, we're gonna, we'll have hell to pay kind of thing. So they understand that we have not been part of this war yet. So as soon as we determine to give something to Israel or decide to do it ourselves to destroy this whole one facility that is very important, we are now involved. And that is going to be a problem because there is that axis of evil that started under Obama and has continued to this day. And I'll tell you who they are. The immediate reacting parties will be China, Russia, and North Korea on behalf of Iran. And obviously they have proxies in the area and around the world. A fraction of Hezbollah is in Venezuela, has been for years, since actually I was serving. The thing is they have overrun Venezuela. They're actually controlling the Maduro regime down there. that particular group, they have different one, like, because they're in Libya, they're in North Africa, South Africa. Some are in Syria still. They're in South America. I mean, these people are everywhere. And actually, some countries are actually considering Hezbollah to be a legitimate quote-unquote organization, which is very strange, and are trying to get them a seat at the UN. So, beside the point. So, there's proxies, obviously, in the area. The only ones I would think that would respond would be in the area. And here's the deal. And this is where all of the information that I'm aware of regarding my training and everything else. Iran, none of those proxies are owned by Iran. They are not 100% dependent upon Iran either. None of them. They all work with other groups, and they also well-fund themselves doing certain things too. Weapons, drugs, human trafficking, money laundering, just crimes, assassinations, you name it. These proxies fund themselves, okay? And some of them agree with other ones, and some of them want to kill the other ones. I mean, not everybody over there, gets along. Like, ISIS doesn't get along with anybody. But beside the point. So, will the proxies respond at all on behalf of Iran if we were to get involved? I think it's very possible the ones in Iraq would. But beyond that... Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Beyond the proxies that are in Iraq, because we obviously have a base there, and that's where the majority of our presence is, we are in Jordan, Iraq, Syria. I don't know if we have anybody stationed in Libya anymore. We're obviously in the seas over there and stuff like that, which the Houthis could attack us in that area and stuff. I don't even think the Houthis would respond. I really think the only proxies that would have an immediate response would probably be in Iraq, because there's actually quite a few of them, different groups there. And they've attacked our bases there before and have actually gotten past our defenses. But I almost question if any of them would respond, because, like I said, they aren't owned by Iran. They don't owe anything to Iran unless they do owe them, meaning like they owe Iran a favor or money or something. That's different. But even then, they could look at Iran and say, you're getting your asses kicked. I ain't fucking dealing with you. I got better shit to do. I don't know if the proxies will respond at all. But the immediate reacting true parties, China, Russia, and North Korea, what will their responses be? Well, first off, China has national security interests in that entire area in the Middle East. They could easily disrupt our supply chains, 100%. And that would cause a big problem. We're not talking about goods. We're talking about things that are important, such as things that go into medications. I don't know, anything and everything that comes from China that we need because we're stupid and didn't do it here. China has huge national security interests there, not just in Iran, but when we left Afghanistan, they actually took over Bagram. I don't know if they're actually physically there or not at Bagram, but they flew into Bagram and they actually made a deal. And this was actually in the Middle East papers that I read all the time. They made a deal with the Taliban for a certain portion of Afghanistan that has rare earth minerals. And they basically bought it off them. So they kind of own a good chunk of land in Afghanistan. They are, obviously Iran is a big partner of theirs. What they've done specifically with Iran, because it's very difficult to find anything publicly what Iran does with other countries, is questionable. Besides the fact they supply them with oil, and they have rare earth minerals there too, but they were supplying with oil, but China could get that from Russia. Shit like that. I know that China is supplying Iran with stuff for their nuclear program, material-wise. And Russia is supplying the technology to Iran for their nuclear programs, and mainly for their... I shouldn't say that. Russia is supplying the technology for their ballistic missiles program. So China's doing one part, Russia's doing the other. But I don't know the depth in which China is involved with any type of deals that they would get from Iran. But I'm sure there's something there. Obviously, they flew in a commercial cargo plane as well as a military transport. A lot of people are very speculative of what those planes, and I think there was a third one, speculative as what could have been on those airplanes or cargos, whatever, or what they were removing from Iran and going to China or elsewhere with. Personally, since one of them was a military transport plane, I honestly think that China has brought in military contractors from China to help with intelligence for Iran at this point. That is one thing Iran lacks, regardless of the IRGC or any of their crappy little military they got over there, is an intelligence program. Obviously, they've already lost their skies. That, in a normal situation, would never fucking happen in a country that has any type of surveillance around anything. And I know for a fact their intelligence program doesn't exist. So I think China could be helping them with intelligence and surveillance and stuff like that. I think one of those planes may have had that type of stuff with equipment and personnel on it. They could have been bringing in, who knows, missiles or something, some sort of assets. I have no idea. And they very well could have dropped all that stuff off and then loaded those planes back up and brought them out somewhere else with whatever was in Iran they want to get rid of. Who knows? So China definitely has an interest in Iran since they are landing planes there and taking them off the radar and going dark before they land or even go into that airspace. So China has, and China's everywhere. China's everywhere. They're in fucking Africa, South America, here in the United States. They own a bunch of farmland. Like, what the fuck? We have like 80,000 Chinese in this country that crossed the border under Biden, which obviously could be a serious security issue, especially since a lot of them were military-aged men that crossed the border that were like literally by themselves without families or anything else. So we could have a problem here with that type of shit too. That's a whole other conversation. So China is invested in the Middle East at this point. They got severely invested in the Middle East when we left. Because when we were there, we had a huge presence. We were watching and doing a lot of things beyond military shit. And once we were gone, China took over. So yeah, China could disrupt our supply chains. Now, I think, and this is where World War III would be different. World War I and II, obviously, air, sea, ground. Face to face, blowing each other away. I don't think World War III, whether it happens today, tomorrow, or like 10, 15, 20, whatever, 30 years from now, it's going to be a different type of war. It's going to be economic. And it's going to be done not necessarily face to your face or even in the same country you're in. And that's why I said global hackers. There are well-known hackers in Iran, North Korea, China, Russia, Lebanon. What's the other country that does a lot of shit? I think there's some coming out of Qatar recently too. In that area, in that area, so those types of people. So obviously they're all around the world, but basically global hackers could become a problem if we get involved. They could affect our grid, which is a piece of shit, apparently. They could go infect our water plants and taint them and do all kinds of wonderful things. They could affect our nuclear power plants. They could get into our banking system. They could end up shutting stuff down so bad that they want to ransom, like people have done. Remember those idiots that broke into, what was it, DMV in one of our states and like shut it down and refused to unlock it and all this stuff until they got a ransom, and those fucking assholes paid them, and yeah, of course the hackers gave them back their system, but they walked away with the money. It's like, how the fuck did that work? So global hackers could do a lot of goddamn damage, period, within seconds if they're able to get into these types of systems. And that would be brilliant to hack any of the things I just mentioned, especially a grid, a water plant, a nuclear plant, especially a banking plant, even a banking system, because you're talking about taking out. If you fuck up the water, you're talking about water supply for drinking, for man-made crap we've made around here that has to do with animals, plants, everything. You're talking about basically a food chain system issue. I mean, you could take down an entire country if you took down all that type of stuff. It would be chaos. It would be crazy. And then what would be the best thing to do? Attack them when they're crazy. So obviously that is something that could definitely happen is global hackers could come after the United States and or our allies as well. The other thing I'm concerned about because of all those Chinese people in our country is having some of them that work in our science labs at these colleges or anywhere else, possibly letting out a pathogen into the United States, just like that fungus case that came around last year. That Chinese dude that smuggled it in here and got caught, that could kill plants and basically take down an entire ecosystem and also cause people to have birth defects, and I think there was like lung issues, all kinds of shit from just this little piece of shit that he had in his pocket, you know. So obviously and we have programs here already that are as far as I'm concerned, biological weapon type shit here in the United States too. And who knows who fucking hires these people? They could be part of those too, and they just release some shit into whatever they do. So there's too many Chinese unknowns, military-age men in this country. They have tried to get into our military bases under Biden when they came in. They crashed their cars into one of the Marine bases, I believe. I can't remember who it is. I don't remember. Or maybe it was Army. Anyway, they have tried to physically get in to our facilities, and one of the guys that got caught doing that basically said he was a tourist and just wanted to take a look around. Okay. They own farmland. Well, they're not farming out here. What are they doing on that land? Like, it's crazy. So Chinese could do a lot of things here inconspicuously in the United States and do some serious damage. And North Korea is obviously a Chinese, or I should say, China backs North Korea. North Korea needs China. So if Chinese ask North Korea to do anything, they're going to do something for sure. That's the actual global evil of access that has come around that started under Obama. China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. That's what that's called. Now, regarding Russia, and this is the end of my video, I think Russia will basically sit back. Even if the United States does something or doesn't do something or whatever, they're sitting back now. Okay? Yeah, they condemn what's happening, whatever. Putin's got way too much shit on his plate. And more than that, regardless of how much he may be losing or winning, and Ukraine may be losing or winning, who fucking knows what reporting is correct? It doesn't matter. Putin is focused. He wants Ukraine. He wants that land again back into Russia. And that is his primary focus, and that is all he cares about. That's his national security interest. And he's currently in that war, okay, for like, what, 3 years now or something? Or even more? I don't even fucking know. And he's dealing with that situation. Think about it. North Koreans were sending troops to Russia and deploying them to Ukraine until the North Koreans found the internet, found porn, started masturbating and walking off. True story. Iran was sending missiles and all kinds of stuff to Russia to use on Ukraine. China was doing the same thing. So the axis of evil was actually supplying Russia for shit for the last 3 years. There's nothing Russia can contribute to this situation other than intelligence, as far as I'm concerned. Russia does have a very good, very well-equipped intelligence program, if you will. That's about it. I don't see Russia giving two shits what is going on right now. If they didn't have their own situation going on, yeah, I could see them getting involved somehow. But I think Putin's going to sit back. Xi's going to be a problem. Kimmy could be a problem if China tells him to. China could invade Taiwan. Who knows? China has a gigantic military. In fact, I think they've surpassed our military in numbers. They can do multi-front wars. They can do all kinds of things at the same time. They've got people all over the fucking world because they own land all kinds of places. So China can do some serious damage to us if we decide to get involved in this war. Now, as far as Iran reacting to us, they'll have to use. They won't be able to react to us other than maybe attack our personnel, our troops, our bases, our assets and stuff directly. So Iran could hit us directly or something. But that's about it as far as Iran can do anything. Their hackers could do some serious damage because they do have very sophisticated hackers in Iran. But we should be more concerned about China. I would keep an eye on China and what they're doing and might do if we get involved. Again, providing it to Israel or kinetically getting involved. I don't see how we don't, but again, I can't see how Netanyahu and that entire military operation doesn't have a plan B to get rid of that particular facility. Maybe they have the capability and they just don't want to announce it or let the world know, and they kind of want to push the U.S. into a war. Who knows? This is Are You Ready For It? Take care, guys. Have a great day.